Isla, I am very excited to be actually having like this type of conversation with you because I have been a fan of yours and your music, but a fan of you for a
Mm.
very long time. It feels like almost 10 years, I want to say, almost a decade, not quite. Um, but, and one of the reasons why is because every time I see you, talk to you, I feel your energy, your presence, and it really, like, I can really feel it impacting me and my energy and my presence. And so when we're talking about the type of person you are, of course, when we're now moving into your music, they to me are one and the same. And
Mm.
so what I would like to do for me personally is really get to know you a little bit better and then also have everyone get to know and get to see what it is I'm seeing as well. So with that said, tell me a little bit about um when I say things like, your energy and your presence, what does that mean to you? When you hear me say that, what do you take from that? What do you take away from that?
What do I take away from that? So I mean, you know how some people, when they walk by a light bulb, it flickers?
Mm.
So I'm one of those people. I ruin all of my electronics. There's this one time I was in the grocery store and like I swear to God, the debit machine like blew up. And I was like, oh no. And the cashier, she's like, oh, this has never happened before. And I'm like, it's me, and I do this. And the woman that was in behind in line next to pay for her groceries, she's like, oh, me too. And so I think energies collided in that moment. And we blew up this, credit card machine. And but no, I'm joking around, obviously, but I've always thought of myself as having like a magnetic personality, which then I kind of laugh because magnetics ruin electronics. So it kind of makes sense, right? But I'm a very big empath, and
Mm.
I'm a big feeler. And songwriting for me has been my therapy because I can process my feelings out of my brain and body and into something else. So that helps a lot. And I just know that there's a lot of pain and grief and trauma in this world already. And I really care about trying to leave spaces and relationships and moments better off than when I found them. And to me, they say that like people will forget what you said, people will forget the details, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And I try to live that way of making people feel better, even if it's a small interaction. I want to make people feel good about themselves, and I think that that's a gift that I carry, and I think it's really important that I use it.
Mm. And it's very powerful, even just everything that you've just said already, mind blowing, and my heart space is going, whoa. And I appreciate what you've said because honestly, that magnetic personality that you're talking about, I felt it the minute that I met you. But here's the
Mhm.
thing. And I won't spend too much time here in the past, but here's the thing. When I met you, Isla, I've had people say to me like all my life, you have potential and why can't you see in you what I see in you and things like that, right? And you go, well, what are people seeing in me that, they think is special? I don't feel that way inside, right? Like what are they seeing? And when I first met you, I picked up on exactly what you're talking about, this very special energy that you have, but there was also somewhere in there that I felt like you hadn't quite picked up on it, or there was not quite an awareness of it for yourself. Going back just a little bit, because I think it leads up to now, tell me a little bit about where you were, let's say 7 years ago, mentally. Okay.
Yeah.
Where were you in your headspace? Where were you in your heart space at that point in time?
So approximately 7 years ago, I was about a year into a really unhealthy relationship.
Okay.
You've
Okay.
nailed that one right on the head. And that's a lot about what this next album that's coming out is about is, hey guys, I'm ready to tell my story. This is where I was. This is what I went through. And this is how I crawled out of it and back to myself.
Mm,
And it was a really unhealthy relationship, and abusive at many times. And relationships like that, like the one that I was in, it dimmed my light. It dimmed my personality. I was, living and in partnership with someone who was rooting against me, who wanted me to fail.
mm,
And when everything, cascaded to the grand explosion at the end, I remember even like finding messages that said that exact thing, like, I hope she
mm,
doesn't do well, I hope she doesn't go further. And it's just like, oh man, I now being out of that relationship for several years, um I'm back to me, but even bigger and grander in that sense of the relationship I've been able to build with myself. But 7 years ago, I was about a year in, and the glamour and fantasy and fun part of the relationship had already fallen away, and I was losing myself super, super quick.
mm.
I had someone in my life that was really critical, and I'm still, a couple years later, I'm still unpacking some of those things that were screamed at me again and again. So yeah, you picked up on that for sure, because I mean, I think part of that too was just being young. 7 years ago, I was just, just starting my 20s,
Mm.
right? And um yeah, I was a baby still, but yeah, that was a big piece of it. And we'll talk about it more when we get into the album chat, but that's really the story of like what happened, because there's such a huge amount of time between releases for me, and that's why, as I was stuck in this.
Mm. And something that you said, your light was dimmed. And because that's what I saw. That's what I saw. And I think when you're and that's not a testament to who I am. I can pick up on things for sure and other people's energy, but I think it's more about your energy being as powerful as it is. It came through. It doesn't matter what you're feeling. It doesn't matter what's going on in your space. It comes through, and I picked up on it right away. It felt like, ooh,
There's a darkness in the mixture.
well, and it felt like the best way to describe it, Isla, was it felt like there was a girl looking at me screaming, help, right? Like, get me out of this,
Aw.
right? Like, help. And just like, oh, like, I'm not even sure, like, not even sure how to even, like, that's what I picked up on. And not in a way where it was just like you were sad and whatever. You were gorgeous and beautiful, and your energy was so wonderful. But there was a girl going, please, like, help, you know?
Aw, and it's so accurate.
And I think again now, and we're going to talk about this too, going into intuition and your new song and your album. But I promise you, I think that we tend to gravitate towards people, and we see things in people that we ourselves are going through. And so for me, I picked up on that as well, because I literally was feeling the same, in not in a relationship way, but I was still feeling very much like everyone around me. A friend of mine calls it energy vampires, right? They just want to they find someone who is special and unique and brilliant and beautiful, and they just go, I don't have that. So let me just take from here and here and here. And then you have this person like you who's so, like you said, empathetic and, giving, that you just go, okay, here, right? You just
Literally
go,
my life.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, because you want to share that. Why wouldn't you? Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you want to share that?
And I'm one of
And
those people that like I really see the best. Like even like you could take like the worst person, put them in front of me, and I'm gonna find something good about them.
yeah,
Which I think is a gift, but you got to be careful, because if you have some naivety mixed in that, which I certainly have had in my young years, it's a little dangerous.
very dangerous and scary. So well said. And then I saw you now coming out of this relationship. You walked into the room and you had just started recording, some new material, which I had been bugging you to do forever. And you walked into the room and I'm getting shivers remembering it.
Same. Yeah.
And I went, oh, oh, here she is. And still yet not quite what you were still like going, okay, I'm finding myself. Whoa, like and like you could tell that you were kind of getting used to who you were, right? But it was powerful, girl. You walked in. So tell me about that point in time, coming out of it, and what for you has been the hardest and most challenging part of the process of really coming into your own.
Um, there has been so many moments of grief and growth and change. My God, change sucks sometimes. But I think, the first thing that I had to deal with, so this was I left my ex August of 2019 because it was right before the pandemic actually. And there was a couple months there I wasn't well. I had made someone my whole entire life, and
Mm.
then I had this shattering reality of realizing that this person didn't even exist. That it felt like death because
Mm.
as the curtain fell and I really saw this person finally for who he was, I realized that the person that I thought I was living with wasn't even there. And so that was tough because it really did feel like I had a massive loss and this grief. And of course, we were married. Hey, like
Hmm.
this was pretty. I was in deep.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had this moment though, and I'll back up a little bit. Like the day that I left, um, and I discovered what I discovered, and it was,
Mm.
the final straw for me. And I started just grabbing a bag to leave the house. And my first thought was like, what the heck am I going to do? Where am I going to go? But oh my God, these are going to be some good songs. And I
Right
still
on.
laugh at that because I just knew I'm like, here's the album. It's coming. I know it's coming now. This is
Right
the
on.
inspiration I needed, I guess, which is overrated, but honestly though, that was the first thing I thought, but the first thing that I felt was relief. And even though that my life was imploding, I just finally felt like, oh my God, I can leave now. I can leave. I've been looking for a reason to leave for so long. And I think as women, especially, there is so much pressure put on us to make it work. There's so much pressure on us to stick it out and to, be the last one standing. And even I remember people telling me like when I would open up to them and they're like, well, you have to at least give it 110%. You can't give up until you know you've given it your all. And my mom, who is an incredibly wise woman, she told me this analogy or metaphor, or whatever it is. She told me this story, that relationships are like being in a canoe. And if only one person is paddling, you're just going in circles, right? You can't paddle a canoe by yourself, for that long. And that's really what I was in, was I was just giving it my all. I was killing myself over this. I literally made myself sick. I developed ulcers and stomach problems, and I made myself sick over how hard I tried. But if only one person is paddling, it's all for nothing.
Mm.
And leaving was one of the hardest things that I've done because I was very reliant on that person, or at least I thought I was, like super codependent and meshed, like really unhealthy. And I had to learn how to stand on my own 2 feet and really just do it. And it was so empowering. And I promised in that moment that I'd never make another human being, another partner, my entire life ever again. And that doesn't mean that I love any less hard, but it means that I'm good. I'm okay. I'm good no matter what. I am fine because I've got myself. I've got my own back.
And here's something, everything you've just said is incredibly powerful.
Mhm.
But here's something that stuck out for me. When you said you were leaving and your one of your first thoughts was, this is going to be a great album, right? It's like you knew it was coming. One of the
Yeah.
questions I wanted to ask you was, everyone, you hear the sayings, everything happens for a reason. You hear it and it's like a cliche almost, right? But then there's these moments where you get a glimpse of your future right away that actually makes you go, okay, this happened for me. I would not be where I am. I would not be strong like I am. I would not feel empowered. I would not, if you hadn't been in that situation. There's absolutely like, it just feels like, okay. And I'm wondering if there was a sense of, almost when you said this is going to be a great album, as much as it sucked going through change, like you said, change sucks. It
Yeah.
really does. It's the hardest thing. They call it growing pains for a reason.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm wondering if, how long after did it take you? And I'm not even going to ask you if you did. I'm asking how long it took you to get to a place of gratitude for what you
I'm
had
not
gone through.
sure about how long, but I know that like probably months, probably a few months where, the anger finally wore off of, how dare he put me through what he put me through.
Yes.
I'd never wish what I went through on anyone because it sucked. And there's a lot of things that are, traumatized me for a long time that I dealt with and still will. But yeah, I'd never wish that on anyone, but my God, did it make me stronger. And, I think I've always been in a rush. And my mom just reminded me this the other night that I've always been in a rush to grow up, a rush to get married, a rush to move on to the next step, a rush to do this. And because of that, I think that um, I don't know, yeah, like I pile a lot on my plate and then I maybe make some decisions that are a little too spontaneous here and there, or but I've with that I think I really have needed to stop and learn some of the lessons along the way, and about trusting people and being
Mm,
naive
mm,
and having just being able to handle my own self and my business and everything. But I do have not gratitude for that person, gratitude for myself. Like that whole entire time. And like I said, like I developed stomach issues, which is hilarious because I was ignoring my gut. My gut was screaming at me. My gut put me in the hospital. She was yelling so loud. And, at some points I was following my heart. And other points I was following my mind. And in other points I was just in straight survival mode, but that whole time my gut was telling me, like, this is not it. And I'll share this story because this was powerful. Near the end, the last few months when things were starting to worsen, and I knew that things weren't okay. There was still hope that they could be better, and that's like such a tragic trap. If anyone is
mm,
listening to this and you had the most incredible first couple months of a relationship and then it just went downhill and all of a sudden they're just a really yucky person and you're holding on being like, "Whoa, wait, it used to be good, we'll get back to that." You're not going to get back to that. That is like a toxic abusive relationship, and it's so crazy. It's like these guys, well, and not just guys, all sorts of people, it's like they have a handbook and they follow the directions because it really was textbook. The more that I've learned, especially about narcissism and narcissistic
mm,
personality
mm.
disorder, right?
You say narcissism, and I'm like, I have like a whole list of like that I go through my head, and it just made me grossed out.
No, for real, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah.
That first 3 months is paradise. It's the
Yeah.
best relationship you've ever been in. It's awesome. There's trips and gifts and acts of affection and every part of the love language, they're hitting it. And they are so much like you because they're reflecting you back to you.
Yeah.
And so get back to the gratitude thing. I realized like the parts of the relationship that I liked were me. The parts of this
Wow.
person that I connected with were me. It was me being reflected back to me because that person was looking for something they didn't have, right? And oh, which story was I telling? Oh my God.
I
Oh
don't know.
yeah, the intuition thing.
I'm mind blown with what you're saying. So like, whew.
Okay, but
Wow.
I swear there was this day that I heard almost audible in my ear, and I liken it to like a grandmother coming and whispering to me, like my girl, like, I heard in my ear, go search the house. And like, who does that? Who searches their house? And it was like this unbelievable physical reaction my body had. And I just stood up and I started looking. And I found what I needed to find. And unfortunately, in that moment, it wasn't enough for me to,
But it
say
was the start.
it was the start. That was the first the first thread was pulled.
There
Yeah.
are there are three times in my life where I'm pretty sure, like there are three times in interviews that I've done and conversations that I've had with artists that I've cried. And this is the third.
Oh,
Um and it's purely because I'm amazed. I'm amazed that how you can look back and just everything that you're saying right now is so it so resonates with me. And going into and what you're talking about, your gut and hearing a voice and hear I often hear from my grandmothers, and let me tell you, these women,
mm.
um they don't play. When I'm not paying attention, they don't play. They yell at me, right? I can hear like accents, right? A Trini accent over here, and then like it's yell. And some people will say, well, that's just you putting it in. No, 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 no. Maybe, sure, but that's coming from somewhere. Which
Yeah.
brings me to, you're talking about your gut, you're talking about, listening to it in that moment and what happens to your body physically when you don't. It's not even just, oh, you didn't listen to it. So no, 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 where it's coming from is going to have
Yeah.
physical repercussions if you don't pay attention to it. It turns into grossness, and you have to pay attention to it. And then fast forward to your song Intuition, because when I listened to that song, you were the voice I needed. You were the voice I needed in Intuition. And so, is that moment that you're talking about when you heard your grandmother's voice, is that what you put down and recorded in Intuition? Is that one of the moments I want to ask?
Yeah, like I didn't write it at that time, interestingly enough, but that moment certainly is just in there because it's listen to your, that's one of the lyrics is listen to your spirit deep inside. And
Yeah.
that's like, I think our ancestors run through us. Of course they do, right? And so that's what that's about. And is, truly yeah, it's about the relationship that I had to redevelop with myself, with my spirit, with my intuition, because that was so, so worn down. It was systematically and it was calculated how my sense of self was stripped from me piece by piece. And intuition is that, it's an anthem to trusting yourself.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing I think actually coming out of it was learning how to trust myself again. Because for the first couple months right after I left, I was so embarrassed. I felt so much shame
Same.
when I realized what I was in because it wasn't until after I left that I realized I was in an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And I mean, it should have been a sign. I remember I was in a bathroom a couple years in. I was in this bathroom and there was a domestic hotline poster inside. And I remember that I looked at that and it gave me a panic attack.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
was like, why am I having a physical reaction to this
Yeah.
poster?
Yeah.
I don't need help. I'm okay. Wait, right? I'm okay, right? No,
Yeah.
I'm not in an abusive relationship. And then the next line should have been when I was Googling, am I in an abusive relationship? Huh. We got there eventually. I'm from a family of late bloomers, but I got there eventually. Anti Google has helped me out there. But no,
That's great.
yeah, I really had to redevelop that sense of trust because I didn't trust myself when I
Mm,
left. Because I
mm,
went, how the heck did I end up in that? I'm a
mhm.
smart woman. I'm strong. I come from a line of strong matriarchs. How did I do that? And that's part of the reason why now I'm opening up and I'm telling my story, because it can happen to any of us. And I don't
Anyone.
want other people to feel so ashamed. Like I hid. I hid for a couple of months and I made it look like I was still busy on social media by talking about other things, but I was sitting in a basement drinking for 3 months.
Yeah.
That's where I was, and I was not okay. And it took me a long time to pull myself out of that and a lot of therapy. And I've been sober now for over a year and like but I was not well.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful, like you said, for the lessons I've learned because now like I know who I am. I know my worth. I'm I'm confident of my value and my, abilities and future and destiny and the things that I'm going to have. And I want other people to feel like that too, that even if they're having to start over from zero, it's okay. Like you got this and you're going to be fine. And I'm excited for one of the songs on the record too, because it's exactly that. It's a message to myself and now to everyone else that's like, you're going to be fine. You're in the worst of it now, but you got this.
Wow. And you know what's interesting about too, you talk about social media, and I just love seeing you pop up on social media. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because you, again, going back to when I first met you, you were so sweet, such a sweetheart. And of course, 100%, that's what I would the word I would use. But when I've seen your social media lately, and I'm like, my first reaction is damn. My first reaction is damn. And I say that because what's happening, that from my perspective, is that you've also embraced a very sensual side of you that I hadn't seen before. You're
Thank
still sweet as pie, but there's a very fierce, sensual, and ownership of your sexuality, I feel, that comes through um in your posts. And I gotta wonder, I mean, we can go there or not. I gotta wonder if, I'm just putting it out there. You don't have to pick it up or whatever. But it feels like you're giving to yourself um what you need to feel that way. But it feels like there's a relationship with yourself and maybe a relationship with a partner that you are finding that within that it's like
it's so true though. It really is. And
oh,
that's like, I'm glad that that's coming out because that's been incredibly intentional to open up in that way to the world. And part of that, honestly, yeah, is I like myself. I like myself and I haven't always. I like my body and I didn't always.
yes,
And that's taken hard work in myself, not in the gym. That's
yeah,
been just all internal work, right? The gym, that's fun. Love that. It helps me stay healthy, helps me stay fit. That's great. But it's internal work, really, right? And having good people in my life is part of that for sure. Like having awesomeness reflected back is really fun. But I think it's important that I say, like, I wasn't allowed to be like that for years.
yeah, yeah.
Allowed. And like I another red flag was when I realized how baggy I started dressing. Like I started wearing baggy clothes because I had to cover up my body because I wasn't allowed to show it.
Ah,
And so much of this is like reclaiming me. And I'm so excited for the next single for 25 because
boom.
that literally is the tagline. The chorus is I'm not yours anymore. and I will never be anyone else's ever again, because I am mine. And like, I'm the fun person who went and got 25 tattooed on my finger, which is my wedding anniversary.
Wow.
And it's halfway gone now. For those of you who are listening, I showed it, but it's half removed. Tattoo removal is extremely painful and very expensive. And if anyone is curious, very painful. Don't recommend it if you don't have to do it. But when I left my ex, I was so angry that I had this tattoo
Yeah.
because it felt like I was branded. And so I
Yeah.
wrote this song 25 to, remove that ownership. Like, you don't own me anymore. That's it. I'm mine. No more.
So going into, I know you're working on a full you're working on a full album, full length.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So we've got intuition. Tell me about 25. More about 25, because I mean, showing me your tattoo and the story of even that, the branding, the ownership, and all the. Tell me about 25. Like, how do you go from removing the tattoo and removing the branding to now there's a song that you're putting out called 25? Like, tell me the connection there.
This is the perks of dating Ila Barker, is you're probably going to get some songs written about you, and you can hope and pray that they're positive, but you treat me wrong, I'm going to write a song, that's out to you. So this is the song in the album that kind of is like that, because the other ones, they're more messages to myself, stories about moving on and listening to my intuition and telling myself it's going to be okay. But this is the song where it's like, hey, I see you. You're a
Yeah.
cheater. You're a liar. I literally say this in the song. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go tell everyone now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for real, right? Like, that was important that I opened up and told some of this story for my own process, for the value for other people in similar situations. And I'm pretty excited about it, to be honest. I love playing this song, especially with the band. I've been playing with the band since the new year, and it's so fun. And I'm putting out a music video as well next week. And this is cool. I shot the music video in the desert in Mexico.
Wow.
I'm so excited to share this. And there's like significance of the location for this relationship. And so it was like this crazy cathartic moment of like going back to this place where I got married,
Mm.
and now like making peace with the land. And we'll talk about the album, in a moment here, but I recorded a music video for the album as well. The album's called Fool Underwater.
Mm.
I'd love to tell you the story about the title and what all that means and the representation of water. But I shot a music video for that one as well there. And yeah, it was, oh my God, it was so emotional just being
Mm.
there and doing this. That just the process of these music videos was therapeutic, and I ripped open some old wounds and healed them a little better this time, But
Mm.
yeah, 25 is it's upbeat and exciting, and there's electric guitar and there's anger. There's anger in this song, but not in the way where you get stuck. If you stay angry at someone too long, it just ruins your life too.
Mm-hmm.
This is the like, can I say F you? Is that clean enough?
You can say the whole word, girl. I mean, come on. It's the
Yeah, I
truth.
don't know if this part will be on the radio then, but this is the fuck you song. This is the
Yeah.
revenge song,
Yeah.
of like, you don't own me, you don't get to own me anymore, you don't get to touch me, you don't get to talk to me. This is me in my space, and I'm just fine. So I'm really excited about that, because it's like this reclamation. And I want it to be more than that, though. Like, for people listening, I was careful to write it that, like, if it's something that you're trying to get away from, maybe it's not even a person, maybe it's addiction or an unhealthy relationship with a parent or a friend. Like, it doesn't even necessarily have to be like a boy and a girl, It doesn't have to be so strict like that. I want people to find something in this song that helps them say that nobody owns me but me.
Hmm. Hmm. It's fascinating, anger. And a lot of people aren't friends with anger. And it's unfortunate, because anger is such a very important part of many processes. Um, we learn a lot about ourselves through our emotions, and anger is a very important one. My mom used to say to me when I was going through breakups and things like that, similarly to yours, she would say, "That's it, stay angry." She would say, "That's it, stay angry." And I never really understood it until I got older, what she was saying, because the anger, you're owning, sorry, you're not living in shame. You are placing the ownership of what's happened elsewhere and not on yourself. And I didn't get that until I got really good at being angry. And that means that, like you said, when you get good at being angry, it means that you're angry and then you're not. And then when you're feeling angry, you allow yourself to be, and then you're not. It's
Love.
when you become friends with it, the dark, all of a sudden, the dark doesn't seem so scary anymore. You can walk through it and you're just like, hey, same thing. And so I love that. I love angry songs because they are a release when we hear them. So I can imagine writing them, right? I mean, there's a whole Carly Pierce 29 album where you can tell the girl is pissed right off. And everyone's like, oh, she's just airing dirty laundry. And, and that dirty laundry needed to be aired out. And so it's okay, number one, to be angry, but it's okay for women to be angry because we're also taught that we're not supposed to be. We're
No.
supposed to just take it in stride and oops, okay, lesson learned. No, no. And so when I first heard this song, I was so thrilled because coupled with again seeing you on Instagram and just enjoying yourself, enjoying who you are in your body and saying, "Hey, enjoy it too." Right? This is me. Enjoy. I love that. But then
Thanks.
when I hear this, it's again, this 25 is you owning that emotion and that experience as well. So awesome, Isla.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
thank you. Like you got to go through it to get through it. You know, stuffing
Yeah.
feelings down does nothing. So yeah, I
Nothing.
I love I love it. I actually wrote that down. That's it. Stay angry. I wrote that down. You have some wise women in your family too, for sure. My God,
Cool.
I love that. And then anger can be so motivating too.
Yes.
Sadness is debilitating. I want to go
Oh.
to bed when I'm sad. But if I'm angry, oh, no problem. I will go pack my boxes in 5 hours and have a place sorted in a day, you know? I'm good. Like,
You can get shit done.
okay, I can
Yeah.
let go. And now here's the record, and I'm so excited for it. It's going to be really fun. And
Tell me about this project. Tell me about this
so,
project you got coming up.
Fool Underwater comes out October 21st, and super excited about the record. It was produced by Sarah Noble, Rusty Robot, and myself. And we had a really, really great time doing this record. We recorded it at No Fun, which is that new studio. It's such a great place. And water is a massive theme for this whole record because water is beautiful and calming and exciting and fun and relaxing and this incredible thing that you can go to. Water is life, right? But then water also has to be respected and honored because it has this power. And in a moment, it can wash you away and drown you. Just the blink of an
Mm,
eye. And I think that unhealthy relationships are like that too. They can be inviting and exciting and awesome until they're not. And then you find
mm,
yourself drowning, you know?
mm,
So a big theme of this whole record is the water, like I said. And my sister-in-law from this last relationship, who I guess she's my outlaw now. So I call her my outlaw.
I love it.
She was so there for me when everything happened, and she likened grief to an ocean. Grief is this vast ocean, and at first these tsunamis come and just knock you off your feet, and these waves of grief just take your breath away, and it's just the worst. And I truly like had my heart broken. I physically felt my heart crack, and I'd never
Mm.
felt that before. It like I was scared I was gonna have a heart attack. Like it was
Yeah.
so physically painful. And at first these waves were huge, and then over time the waves become more manageable. Maybe the water just comes up to the bottom of your chin, and then eventually it's to the, your elbows. And then
Mm.
one day those waves just kind of lap at your feet.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time. And then a tsunami comes again.
Yeah.
The summertime, those, are less frequent, but that helped a lot just to realize like, okay, I just need time. Feel the motion of this water, go through it. I know how to swim. I'll be okay.
Well, what's interesting, Isla, is that water is an emotional element. And
Mm,
so as soon as you said fool underwater, in my head, what I heard was a fool under all these emotions. So, like I said, you're talking about the tidal wave and you're talking about tsunamis and you're talking about it. Water is like emotions, uncontrollable,
yeah.
right? And it's natural. So it's the most natural thing. We are water. We are made up of water, mostly. And so fool underwater instantly connects to the tidal wave of emotions that you go through when you're happy in a relationship or any relationship, rather, and then when you're not.
Yeah.
Because there's everything waters, there's everything from stagnant when things aren't moving. You don't want that either, because that's when water gets mucky and gross, and that's where things, right? So fool underwater is the perfect, just even summary of everything you've just talked about that you've gone through.
Mm.
100%. Because, I mean, there's no, it's not a coincidence that you chose water. There's no coincidence there. You could have chose fire. You could have been like, because fire is passionate and still uncontrolled, right? So I think that
Oh,
that's
that's cool.
yeah, so I do think, again, that's just from me to you. So I'm just floored that there are people, there are things, there are spirits, there are whatever speaking to us, and you're able to hear it now. And that's when things connect, and that's when things align. I commend you for the journey that you've been on to get to where you are now, because clearly, wherever you are, it's connecting. It's connecting. Um, and I think that I'm very excited to hear this record. And I think I'm excited because I know you're going to take us on a journey that I know that I'm going to find pieces of my own journey through yours. And I think that that's one of the greatest gifts that music can give to us, and especially artists like you. So congratulations. Congratulations, Isla, on so many levels.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, you're the best. Thank you.